Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And the media just can't quit Rian Johnson.
No, it's weird. Like, he has that one thing that he leaked, or that interview, and then these tweets started appearing. And now everybody and their brother is running with this Rian Johnson's, his set of movies. And they have to all spin it as, and then that's not enough. No. Okay, that was it. That was fine. But no, there's no news. It's non-news. So they're using it as a reason to double down and attack Star Wars fans again.
It's like, what is going on here? It's like 2017 all over again. You know?
Well, yeah, exactly. It's ridiculous.
So we're going to talk about the curious case of Rian Johnson, who was, the word on the street was he was not being considered to come back for Star Wars, and then all of a sudden he said he was.
He's saying, what I'm hearing is Disney wants to stay as far away from him as possible. So if Lucasfilm's pushing it, that might be different, but I am hearing that they're not too happy with him on other channels.
And the media just won't have it.
The media won't let it go. They won't just report Rian Johnson without having to get some digs in there about the toxic fans that they consider toxic, as they themselves are perpetuating this bullshit.
Yeah, zero comments. Nobody really cares. But we're going to talk about this because it's very interesting to watch old news become new news when there's nothing else to talk about. Before we get into it, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We're over 178,000. 178,000 subs. Thank you for the support, guys. We do talk about Star Wars. We talk about pop culture. Talk about animation, whatever interests us. That day, we did talk a lot about Rian Johnson and the drama around The Last Jedi. It was basically, we had the media and certain people at Lucasfilm definitely taking the fans to task. We had Rian Johnson saying some stuff in public.
He was keeping it going for
sure. And it was announced he was going to get a trilogy. Then that went down the memory hole.
Right.
For like a year or two.
And then he supposedly had this interview with this one USA, I think it was USA Today, let me look, writer, that Soraya Wilson, USA Today. But you keep hearing what she says he said on Twitter.
Yeah.
It's all her saying he said. So it's recycled through her. But what gets me is the top of this article is called Star Wars Last Jedi director Rian Johnson reveals his interpretation of the mirror scene. And you're like, oh, okay, we're going to hear what he thought it was, because everybody else thought, a lot of people thought it was stupid. And you get down, you're like, oh my God, yeah, you're going to hear about what it is. Here's what it is. Here's according to Soraya Wilson. Are you ready for this big, revolutionary, news clip? Rian Johnson on the dark cave mirror after I asked if she saw Ben, similar to Luke going into the cave at Empire Strikes Back, it is left open to your interpretation. He didn't want to be definitive about it, so it wouldn't take away from what you got out of it. So the answer to this question is, I'm not going to answer this question. It's a non-answer. It's whatever you think it is. That's the answer. It's literally not worth mentioning.
Because I don't know. I didn't have an answer. I just threw more questions out there.
Right. There's literally no answer to this. So this article is like pointless. And then they get below that. And then they bring up an article from 2019. And these are, and then some comments with Wired doing a panel on Knives Out. He made his feelings clear about fans who objected to the diversity in his film. That wasn't the issue. People kept saying over and over again, that wasn't the issue. But they will not stop with this. So then they spent half the article talking about quotes he said from 2019 that have nothing to do with this at all. And we're not representative of what was actually going on to begin with. And then the quotes were about, if someone's responding to diversity negatively, F them. If anyone didn't like the movie, I'm not saying that's why they dislike it. It wasn't surprising to me. I grew up a Star Wars fan, and yeah, right. And I was in my 20s when these prequels came out. So were we, bitch pants.
Yeah, right.
And the whole idea that it's all been sunshine and roses and suddenly everybody's yelling at each other is baffling to me.
I don't understand when I completely destroyed Luke Skywalker and didn't answer any questions from the last movie, and I don't understand why people are mad.
But here's the thing. If he's been a fan for the years he's claiming he was a fan for, people have arguments about stuff with the movies all the time. Like, it's not new to argue about it. It's new to behave like complete toxic assholes and call everybody names and then try to cancel them and all that because they don't like a damn movie. That's new. That used to be, okay, you disagree. No problem. Different opinions? Okay. Well, we don't agree on that, but what did you think about that? Oh, I loved it. So did I. Let's talk about that instead. That's how it always was. This whole idea, if you didn't like something, it was because you were a istophobe. that all started with this shit. And his comment, if you don't like the diversity, then F you. Thing is, diversity was not the issue. And everybody keeps telling them, diversity was not the issue. And they keep coming back with, here's Rian Johnson saying nothing about anything. And by the way, I'm going to slam the fans again in this article because they didn't like diversity, which has been repeatedly specified was not the issue.
Yeah, but the media, they keep pushing the same thing until it becomes true. Or people,
it doesn't become true because people aren't going to let it.
People, yeah, look, I mean, we had this overwhelmingly positive response to Luke Skywalker proper returning in The Mandalorian, and there was a reason for that. People did not want to see Luke Skywalker destroyed. And frankly, look, people have got different opinions about things, but if you actually grew up with Star Wars, you were actually a fan of it, you would not want to destroy it in the way that you did, in my opinion.
Another article they were talking about, he subverted it deliberately. He bragged about being subversive.
Yeah.
But beyond that, to this whole diversity thing, yes, because Disney has been so fantastic about diversity, like when they wished James Earl Jones a happy birthday.
Yeah.
And then, quoted Dr. King about, how we shouldn't, be discriminating against people the next day. They did such a great job wishing Carl Weathers a happy birthday as well. And they did, and then when people bring up the John Boyega thing, if you listen to a lot of fans, they're pissed because they wanted John Boyega to be a lead and not comic relief. But no, it's because people hate diversity. And by diversity, you just mean women. That's what the diversity actually means. And I'm sorry, I'm a woman. And I thought Rey sucked. I thought Rose Tico was a completely wasted character. And her and Holdo were just there to be a foil to the male characters, so they could knock them down from the last movie just to rebuild them back up again.
Yeah, and that's what people have a problem with. It wasn't the diversity. They had a problem with new characters being introduced before the characters introduced in the movie directly before it were even fleshed out. For no reason other than to just, woman-splain the men.
And then they had that, then they did what they did to Luke. And then it was clear that there was no plan. And everything that was supposed to be answered, it was completely, like, everything that you thought was going to be a big, important plot point. Oh, it means nothing because he decided it didn't. I mean, it's like he basically said, what are the main points people wanted to hear the answers to? And I'm just going to shit all over it. And it falls in line with what he brags that he does. And that's what people had a problem with. He
likes to whack the beehive. He said before, there were some video clips surfacing that he loves to make polarizing movies. Now, my feeling on that is 110% fine. I like movies that are divisive that you talk about for years after the fact. The problem is when you have a tentpole franchise like Star Wars, people have certain expectations.
That's just it.
You can do your avant-garde film on your own terms.
Which is cool. Knock yourself out.
Whatever. Knives Out, that's his thing. Whatever. But, when you take something like Star Wars and you're entrusted with...
You're the caretaker.
Caretaker, not the originator. And that's what so many people in Hollywood are forgetting now when they take over existing franchises is that, fans, longtime fans especially, have certain expectations. Now, I'm not saying you can't throw people a few curveballs, but throwing the entire thing out.
The whole thing was a curveball.
Yeah, the whole thing was a curveball. It was ridiculous.
And it was not good. Did not go well with the fans.
No.
You can track, and Disney, I know, has from what I'm hearing, they blame Rian Johnson. So even though they should blame Kathleen Kennedy because she was the overseer and ultimately.
Yeah, she signed off on it.
They blame they can pretty much tie the whole tanking of Star Wars back to this film. And when it split the fandom, and then he was out there, instead of doing damage control, he was perpetuating the division.
Yeah, so that was the thing too. It wasn't just creating a divisive movie. There was a pretty active campaign to divide the fandom too. And knowing now, hearing what's going on again, back channel rumors, hearing what's allegedly going on at Lucasfilm. It does again feel like there's the Lucasfilm story group who was whispering in Rian Johnson's ear with The Last Jedi. We know this. Kiera Hart, I guess, was talking to him, throughout the process. And then we've got the Favreau and Filoni camp over here that want to do like George's version of Star Wars. They want to
do good Star Wars.
Actual Star Wars. But it does feel like it's that power struggle. You can feel it.
Right. But that's all kind of, we've already talked about it. But what I wanted to point out was this article showed up today. All right. And it's literally a, like, oh, you're going to go read it. It literally says nothing. It could be whatever you want it to be. Well, that doesn't answer the question you claim it answers.
No.
And then the rest of the article is just basically how we're going to shit all over the fans because,
Yeah.
Because the fans are against diversity, which is not what happened. And actually, even recently, it's been brought up repeatedly that the fans were actually for these things. It's Disney who seems to have been against, or Lucasfilm who seems to have been against the diversity. And now here we go back again, spewing this same line of crap all over again.
Yeah, it's getting really old. I mean, at some point, fans have to just be like, just stop. We're done. You fooled us once. We cared. We gave these websites how many clicks, how many views, how much ad revenue, because we were angry that we were being demonized. And then you realize, like, oh, that is literally the name of the game.
Right.
Is let's outrage people for clicks.
Right.
Let's do it.
But it's interesting. Rian Johnson, offhandedly, especially in this interview, it's not even him coming out and saying it's this chick who's interviewed him saying, "Oh yes, he's getting his movies because Rian Johnson said so through somebody else." That means that he's getting his movies now. All of a sudden, it's exactly what you think it's going to be. It suddenly appears everywhere.
Yeah. So this is where I wanted to go with it. Now you sent this article.
I already said what I'm saying. Go for it.
Okay. So you sent the article over to me this morning, and I kind of looked through it, and I was kind of like, well, this is kind of non-news because it is old stuff, but it's part of a bigger. I'm gonna come out and say it's part of a bigger campaign. As a marketing person, as a PR person, it's no coincidence that all of a sudden we're basically seeing Rian Johnson everywhere associated with Star Wars again.
After like a while, it's been quiet. It's been months.
And it is kind of curious. I mean, again, the two things could be completely unrelated, but it's kind of curious that this happens right after the Gina Carano situation. Literally like within a day or so of her termination, it's almost like, okay, the Lucasfilm Story Group side blew up their Death Star. Here comes Rian Johnson again to come back in and start, kicking up stories of him working on the trilogy. Again, he's the only one thus far saying he's still getting a trilogy. And many news outlets are running with it. And a lot of news outlets are now like, oh yeah, Rian Johnson needs to do a trilogy again.
No, he doesn't.
Same talking points from 2017. And here's how this stuff works. And if you go back, again, here we have a day ago, why I'm excited for Rian Johnson's Star Wars movie trilogy. Screen Rant 5 days ago. Why Star Wars future needs Rian Johnson.
Oh, that article's full of crap. I read it already.
And we've got here 17 hours ago. Is Rian Johnson going to pursue his trilogy? Sure, he better, because So, we talked about PR firms, and we talked about how Disney in particular, they listen to PR professionals, and they were saying that they basically said, hey, cater to the left, whatever. What people don't know is it's not just companies that can hire publicists.
Anybody can.
Anybody can. Especially if you're a multimillionaire because you've made a bunch of money off of a bunch of movies, including getting royalties off of a Star Wars movie that even if it didn't perform very well, still made over $1 billion at the box office, you probably got a couple $1 million in the bank at least. If you've got deep pockets, even if you don't have terribly deep pockets, you can hire a publicist. And what these publicists do, on your behalf, is they go out and they've got connections with these news outlets, with places like USA Today. They have connections with them. They have a list of
the show media. Yeah,
they are the show media, and they do. There are literally places where publicists and journalists can connect more formally. There are literally websites, and there are also it's the same with like literary agents having they can skip the line to get their stuff in front of editors. Publicists can do that. They will do that for you. This is why. A lot of individuals hire publicists in Hollywood. You've got people writing books that hire publicists to help promote their book. It is outside of the company. So it is, again, because Disney hasn't said anything, Lucasfilm hasn't said anything, it is completely plausible that Rian Johnson sees an opportunity to be like, hey, it looks like the tide's turning back in the story group's favor.
It's not turning. If they were smart, they would go nowhere near this.
Let's start, getting that buzz going again about my trilogy. I'm going to go hire a publicist to hit up. Not saying that's actually what's happening, but there were some, interesting situations. Like we talked about Shearer, we talked about Noelle Stevenson. We talked about how Noelle Stevenson in all of these articles, she was It was supposed to be about She-Ra, but they always wound up being about specifically Noelle Stevenson.
Right, and then they mentioned She-Ra around it.
But you didn't hear much about the rest of the team. Mm-mm. You didn't hear anything about Chuck Austin, who was a co-producer on the show. Why? Because Noelle Stevenson has a publicist.
Yeah, she likely wouldn't have them do this.
Well, she did for her books.
Yeah, we know she did.
I'm not going to tell you who the publicist was, but I know for 125% certainty that she used a publicist to help her with her books, which is what got her kind of labeled as the it girl at the time in a lot of the Teen Vogue and Vanity Fair. And because again, these publicists for a fee can skip the line, and a lot of journalists are like, gosh, what am I going to write about today? I don't know. Oh, here, this publicist sent me a tip. I can get an interview with so-and-so. It makes everybody's job easier. So it is completely possible that Rian Johnson has hired himself somebody just to get himself out there to get people talking Rian Johnson in Star Wars.
There's also that because one person said something, they're all running with it because a lot of these are the blogs that were deliberately trying to get hits they get hits by being controversial and slamming the fans, and they're trying to like, whoa, shit, our hits are down. Quick, slam this up because we saw this, and we're gonna do a bunch of comment pieces about why we're gonna support Rian Johnson, and then because we know we'll get a lot of hits.
The chum bucket.
Like the comment. I bet 180 an hour.
No freaking thanks. Freckin' hard no. When you realize you're in a deep hole, you should stop digging. Who are you talking to? Nobody needs or wants this. Healing shouldn't be needed. He did a bad job. Who's paid you to publish this?
Yes.
Are you owned by Disney? Look, the vast majority of fans are like, you know what? The Last Jedi's in the rearview mirror. And
let's not go back to
that. Let's just pretend it didn't happen.
And just by the fan reaction of when Luke showed up at the Mandalorian, that tells Disney everything they need to know.
Yeah.
Everything they need to know.
Yeah, but will they listen?
No, because they just don't listen. They don't listen in general. And then they deserve whatever shit they get because they will not listen. People are telling them what they want. It's money in the bank, and they just keep stepping over them because this small shout group on Twitter says.
Yeah, so I think at this point, especially after all the drama going on with the Mandalorian and all that, I'm like, Disney Star Wars is a completely lost cause. And bringing Rian Johnson back is not going to fix it.
Oh, that's like the worst thing to do.
That is like...
So you're already having trouble. Him actually going out there and running at the mouth about this is actually probably doing more damage than good at this point. It's a wrong time for this, for sure.
Yeah, especially now. But again, so I don't know if he's going rogue.
Read the room, dude.
Yeah, he doesn't read the room. He's interested in getting his own deal, getting his trilogy come hell or high water. And, I don't know, guys. We'll see.
If Disney wants to speaking of water, flush a bunch of money down the toilet, give him a trilogy.
So we're going to wrap this one up?
Yep.
Okay, so please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We'll talk to you later.